All right, Adam, the final Saturday before game week, and we have an answer on the starting quarterback situation, don't we? Sort of.
No.
Our answer is that we're not going to find out, right? And Carl Zarrell did tell us today that hey, we're not going to announce anything before the game. Wants TCU to prepare for both guys all the way up to the end. And you asked this question: are you doing this because TCU is making you prepare for three? And he said no. I think there's probably some of that, but certainly they want TCU to prepare for both those guys.
Well, he also didn't just say no to that question. He kind of explained the fact that it really was that close of a competition. And he mentioned that there's some areas that Brendan Lewis was better and other areas JT Shrout was. It sounds like maybe Shrout had a touch of a better camp, but not – I think he used the word – he didn't say that, but he used the words that not enough to unseat the incumbent, which that could spark a whole nother debate when you go in 4-8 and have a really bad offense. Statistically, should there be an incumbent? That's a whole other discussion altogether. Yeah. But it seemed to make it sound like both are going to play on Friday. Isn't that what you took away from it?
Yeah, I think that's the case, and I would be surprised if they don't both play on Friday, to be honest with you. And I think we're going to find out when games start whether there should have been an incumbent or not, right? We've heard a lot about the growth that Brendan's made in the offseason, and the little bit of practice we see, maybe it hasn't been super evident, but maybe it has been in all the times they've seen him. And we're going to find out if it's evident on Friday night.
Yeah, and he used the example that Kyle DeVan came from Michigan, where they had what he called a successful two-quarterback system last year. I think ideally you want one of those guys to grab this job by the horns on Friday night or at Air Force pretty early in non-conference play at least, right? I don't think – again, we talked about this on Wednesday. You don't want either guy to really not feel like they know where they stand quarter to quarter, game to game. I think at some point you have to have some definitive thing that happens in that group. But I guess if it is that close, I don't really see a big issue with it going into that opener, especially given that the team you're going up against could play two or three quarterbacks.
Yeah, and hey, in a game like this, I think it's such a pivotal game. We'll get more into it next week as we preview it, but I think it's such a pivotal game for them to win that it's maybe not the worst thing to play both. And maybe if you sputter for a couple of drives, the other guy comes in and gives you a spark. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing. I know everybody wants to know a starter right now. I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing to play both and go in here, not knowing who's going to take that first snap.
In my eyes, the best scenario would be, and I have no idea if this is the case, but JT Shrout is your starting quarterback, but you really utilize Brendan Lewis's strengths, which is his legs. And you wonder, had they had a true backup quarterback last year that they felt they could have put in there, you could have run Brendan Lewis more than they were able to last year. And certainly with the play calling and the O-line, it would have been tough for Brendan Lewis to have more success. But there was times like early in the A&M game when Brendan Lewis was using his legs that the offense looked quite a bit better, but you just couldn't do that because you couldn't afford to lose him. So if Brendan Lewis is out there, I think even if it is as a starting quarterback this year, you're going to run him a lot more than you were able to throughout the course of last season.
Yeah, and obviously last year the only option behind him was Drew Carter, who was a true freshman and not quite ready to play. And even if he was ready to play, that's your only option behind him. Whereas now you've got whoever the starter is, you got four scholarship guys behind him, and one of them being the true freshman that looks pretty good. So there's not. There's much better options this time. So real quick, just depth chart overall. We got a chance to look at it. There's a lot of oars in there. And we're not talking about boats, but there's a lot of position groups. It's like this guy's the starter or this guy's the starter. Were any of those surprising to you?
Not necessarily, and I would caution people to not overreact to the depth chart because that actually happened last year. And first game, the things that we kind of expected showed itself more than the depth chart that we got last summer, right? So I don't know. Charlie Offerdahl is tied for your third running back spot. That's pretty awesome for him.
Hey, that's great for him. He's ahead of Victor Venn at this point, and we'll see. They keep saying Charlie Offerdahl is going to have a role in this offense, so we're going to find out on that soon, pretty soon as well.
And we also don't know the starting long snapper. There's an oar there as well, so a lot of intrigue leading into game week here in Boulder.
There is, and like Adam said, I wouldn't read too much into that depth chart. Totally, there's some things that whatever it says right now probably won't be the case when the starting lineup hits the field on Friday night against TCU. But any other takeaways today? Players weren't available today. It's a day, kind of a last they get the rest of the day off. But just Darrell. But anything else that kind of stood out to you?
Well, it's not a huge thing, but on the depth chart, Nico Reed is the number one kickoff returner, which we had kind of questioned a little bit. He's so valuable to your defense. Do you put him back in there, or do you put a Maurice Bell in there instead? Yeah. But they have Nico Reed 1, Deion Smith 2, and then Maurice Bell 3rd on that. So slightly interesting, I guess. But obviously, after watching Nico Reed's 1 kickoff return so far in his college career, that was pretty electric. So CU fans won't be going to the bathroom when the other team's kicking off this year, so that'll be fun to watch. And then the injury updates sounded pretty promising. Now, is that 100% what's going to happen on Friday, or do things just kind of look promising now, so you're going to say that? But he made it seem like Tommy Brown, R.J. Sneed, Trevor Woods are going to be ready to go. One guy that we didn't expect to see that he mentioned is Nigel Bethel. He's clearly still working his way back, and maybe – 3-4 weeks into the season, he contends for some playing time there. But that's as good a news as you could hear right now. And again, CU fans need to be knocking on wood, but this is about as healthy a CU football team. If those 3 guys that I just mentioned play on Friday night, that's about a full roster of a team. I shouldn't say full roster, but most of a roster that you're going to have healthy going into an opener that we've really seen, that I've seen around here.
Yeah, and he also mentioned with Nigel that, hey, a week from now, we think he could be a lot better than he is right now, and potentially getting ready to play. But yeah, if you have Tommy Brown available and R.J. Sneed available in that game, that changes things quite a bit. And Trevor Woods. I mean, if you have those 3 guys available for TCU, that changes things quite a bit. So I think that'll do it for this one. We're going to be back early next week to preview TCU.